Hey all, welcome to the next version of Amnic Cast. Today we have Kelly Looney, someone recently got introduced to, and then he has an amazing wealth of experience. Who has seen from an assembly language to Unix world, and how that world move into a agile world, and then he has been part of ThoughtWorks in implementing agile, and then moved into DevOps, and then into the cloud world. So we are going to have a really amazing experience taking us over like last 30, 35 years of how the whole industry transformed, and we will go through with Kelly. Welcome, Kelly.
Hi, thanks very much.
So why don't you tell the viewers about your experience from how you started off to how the transformation happened over a period of time and what you do now?
Yeah, I've been around pretty much through the entire history of software development and IT. It's uh, pretty crazy. Over 35 years ago, when I got out of school, I started out as an assembly language programmer doing real time systems in a place where we heard things like real men write their own operating systems. uh, and thank goodness we're past all of that. We're not just dealing with real men, and we're using tools rather than trying to write everything from scratch. But as I mentioned, started out as an assembly language programmer. Another thing really critical for me is very early on in my career, I got involved with the small talk community. I was at a company called Park Place Systems, which was a spinoff of Xerox PARC, and they managed the actual Smalltalk 80 code base. And I was fortunate enough to get to manage one of the releases of VisualWorks, which was the name of the product, but it was the Smalltalk 80 code base, and um, uh, actually kind of get that out to the market. And it was one of the early kind of cross-platform and web development in environments. Kind of amazing. This is back in the 90s. So very interesting time, and I learned a lot from Smalltalk. If you look at Smalltalk, about half the people that signed the original Agile manifesto kind of came from that small talk community. And a lot of the concepts from small talk have been incredibly enduring. They're what inspired Java. They're the just in time compilation, all the sorts of things that were in small talk still continue today to be very relevant. And so that was very, very helpful to me. And it led to other things in my career. I mean, I think much of my career has been about helping people do a better job of software development and helping them get more iterative and more incremental. And that's sort of the small talk way. But it's as I mentioned before, relevant in all sorts of different areas, even today. So from from Smalltalk, I joined the Agile community. And in the Agile community, I spent a lot of time with customers, and I actually, did products and also consulted with companies about how to be more agile, how to do things more incrementally, smaller teams that were able to, be more productive. And so that was a whole phase of my career. And then that led me to work for ThoughtWorks, as you mentioned. And at ThoughtWorks, once again, lucky enough to work with people, um, with some amazing people. Martin Fowler was there. I had a chance to at least meet him and work with him a little bit. But much more deeply, I worked with Jez Humble. Jez wrote Continuous Delivery, one of the kind of Bibles of the DevOps community in the DevOps world. And it was just as that book was coming out that I worked with Jez on some products at ThoughtWorks. And that led me to become a really ardent DevOps evangelist and spent a lot of time helping companies. To me, DevOps sort of completes Agile. It's the way to deliver frequently. In a lot of cases with Agile, you just reoriented teams, and maybe the delivery wasn't necessarily all the way complete. Well, DevOps helped you actually get that delivery done. It actually uh, uh, helped you kind of get the code in front of the customer to get the feedback, which is an Agile preset.
Mhm.
So DevOps became a real focus for me, and I'll fast forward now to just in the last 5 years or so. I went to work for AWS as a DevOps subject matter expert, and helped moved to Seattle, worked at Amazon and AWS headquarters, and got a chance to work with a lot of the different customers, massive sorts of customers that were moving to the cloud and doing agile and DevOps as they did it. And I kind of helped at AWS manage the various DevOps partners that worked with AWS. So that was a great experience. Got a chance to work with all kinds of different customers and be a part of this. First I was a part of agile, then I was a part of DevOps, and then a part of the whole cloud migration that's still ongoing. But during the time I was at AWS, it was a time when a huge number of organizations kind of decided to move to the cloud, and all these things worked very much, hand in hand, as far as getting faster delivery, doing more experimentation. And so, and then most recently, I was AWS for 4 years, and then most recently, I've worked for a company called Tide.co, which is a UK-based company that is offering products, has an offering in the UK market, the India market, and now the German market as well. And so there, I was a SVP of engineering, and helped the company kind of manage its overall engineering. Used all of these things from my background, from agile to DevOps to cloud. Tide was an AWS customer, of course, and help them to take advantage of all these things to kind of take their offerings to these markets. So sorry, that's kind of a long-winded introduction, but that's sort of the background.
No, it's amazing to see the kind of journey that you have had, right? But just listening to it, I had a follow up question, right? You have seen releases from small talk, then being part of Agile community in the 2000 to 2010, you would have seen the whole Agile world of releases, how you do like faster time to market. Then suddenly you went into the cloud where not just the releases but also you can get resources at will and all those things, right? How do you compare these things? Like, can you just give what you did and how did you transform and the kind of ways in which from 90s to today?
Well, it's all a progression. I think each thing builds on top of the other. I mean, I think that, in the small talk world and the agile world, the kind of realization that people had is that instead of carefully planning an entire software project before you started to do it, it was better to incrementally build small pieces and kind of grow software more like a plant, more like a something that you build piece by piece by piece. And and so that was helpful for agile. DevOps helped you get your actual functionality in front of customers so you could get feedback, which is critical, to agile as well. So DevOps helped to complete agile, in my mind anyway. And then the cloud suddenly gave you all these facilities to more easily build your applications by taking advantage of resources your cloud vendor could provide to you. And so it increased the speed, increased the ability to experiment even more. So each of these waves has kind of reinforced the next one. And the wave we're in right now is the whole AI wave, and it's yet another reinforcing principle that allows you to try things, experiment. The constant theme here is experimentation. It's scientific method for software development. How do you try lots of different things and then keep doing the things that work well for you?
Awesome. I want to pick a couple of things on that one, right? One is the experimentation point of view. I think you touched upon a couple of times in terms of how experimentation is really important, right? Can you look at like how could companies which are leveraging cloud, DevOps practices, and agile, what are some of the things that they can do to make sure that they are experimenting and be successful in their innovation?
Well, it's interesting. It goes all the way back to the original requirements and to like product management in a lot of cases. Um, I've been in multiple different places where, in order to, a lot of the technology to quickly put software together and experiment and get things in front of customers, the technology is by and large there now. The question becomes, who can design the experiments, who can decide,
Mhm.
come up with bite-sized things to do to get in front of customers. And to me, I always talk about, it's about answering questions. If you have questions that you want to ask customers, that you want to find out more about your market, what do customers really want, what are they really willing to buy, then you want to come up with lots of small experiments. And like I said, the technology is there now, but oftentimes the challenge is, okay, let's not think in terms of this huge product we need to get out and put in front of people. Let's think in terms of questions that we want to answer, and how do we get those questions answered with maybe smaller pieces of software.
I think that's a very, very important stuff, right? Because I think that's a fundamental shift from how the agile world of thinking, MVPs, and all those things, that one is don't think too much in terms of a big blocks, but have a very small stuff, and then more importantly, get the customer feedback to keep rolling, right? Now,
Yeah.
you also touched upon the Gen AI part of it, right? And last, I think AI has been there for about a few years, but Gen AI has really revolutionized not just using AI, but also you can use AI on DevOps, you can use AI on coding. How do you see that the transformation journey?
Well, it's kind of interesting. Once again, with my long perspective, I started out very early in my career doing AI. I actually delivered some expert systems as a young
Okay.
programmer, 30 years ago. And what's interesting is a lot of the AI concepts and AI algorithms and whatnot are that old.
Mhm.
And the other funny part of this is, AI was this was a really big deal a long time ago, and then for a long time, we had what we called AI winter, in which
Mhm.
everything AI was kind of looked down upon. Everybody decided it wasn't ready. It couldn't do what was necessary, and AI experience was kind of not valued very much, which in today's context is amazing, because we've gone back to another huge hype cycle of AI for everything. AI is going to solve every problem. AI is the most important technology out there. And so, I don't know. With my perspective, I try to kind of find some middle ground. And what I find is that AI is useful technology. It can solve some interesting problems. In fact, it solves more interesting problems all the time. But I try to not get over, go too much into the hype. It's not going to solve everything. It's not going to replace everybody's job. It's not going to, it's another technology. It's an interesting technology because of how general it is and how it can be applied to so many different places. And it's a good thing that you want to take advantage of and you want to use. And what I'm seeing currently with the AI capabilities that are out there is it works well in areas like DevOps, where you want to generate code in a lot of cases, and some of the new AI tools are good at generating code. Now, what do you do with all that code after you've deployed it? That's another problem that has to be addressed. But AI can help in areas like DevOps, and in particular areas, it's really making great inroads.
And are you using any of these things practically? Like, one is like where it's going towards. Like, what are some of the experience that you have done, like in terms of
Yeah,
using it?
at at Tide, we did a kind of a what I would almost call a typical journey of, we had a significant customer support function with customers all over the world. Like I said, in India and in the UK and now in Germany, and we looked to augment our customer support capabilities with a chatbot. Originally, we started to look at it and built a chatbot. We used an LLM. So we used the kind of latest AI technology. We got great help from some great companies as well. And what was interesting there, and the approach we took was to have our customer support people use this chatbot rather than put it right in front of our customers, because we wanted to make sure that, take a kind of once again incremental steps and see how much this
Mhm.
would help our customer support people. And that approach did yield some fruit. We ended up started out with a chat bot. We ended up kind of building the AI directly into some of our customer support systems, so it wasn't necessarily a chat bot. And it's actually deployed, used. It's not just something we tried; it's something we actually have in production now. And
Nice.
it's making a difference. It's helpful. It's not changing everything. It's not like, you know, it's not like doing all the work for us, but it's doing important, making important improvements, which is what we're very happy about at Tide.
Nice, nice. And then, you've also done quite a lot of stuff on the cloud cost management optimization, right? Can you take us through, how do you manage cloud costs? What are some of the optimizations you have done?
Yeah, one of the things that we did, once again, at Tide over the last 18 months or so, is transition into Kubernetes. We're somewhat late in doing that as compared to much of the
Mhm.
market, but that was somewhat by design. We kind of wanted everybody else to go through the growing pains, and then we would take advantage. And just go straight to the best solutions, or to more mature solutions, I guess I would say. But
Yeah.
we transitioned in AWS, um, from ECS to EKS, and one of the things that was kind of interesting about that we found is that by doing a modern Kubernetes kind of design, we were able to, and cost controlling costs was very important to what we were trying to do at Tide, because we knew we had to go to huge new markets like India. We had a great market in the UK where we were doing very well, but India is over 10 times the size from a standpoint of small to medium enterprises that were our target customers. I mean, more than 10 times. I mean, it's absolutely enormous. And one of the things that we knew we had to do is keep control of our costs, our infrastructure costs, because not only was the market bigger in India, but it also, the margins were very thin. And
Yeah,
so we had to
yeah,
make sure we controlled costs, because we want to, in order to create a good business there, we had to do, it's kind of like Amazon, high volume, low margin. That's what we knew we had to do in India. And so as we moved to this new Kubernetes architecture, it wasn't just any Kubernetes architecture. We spent some time on a very solid design that took advantage of AWS features like spot instances and reserved instances, and automatically kind of used the most cost effective means of hosting what we were doing. And we were very pleasantly surprised by how much cost savings that we could generate by putting this in place. So we automatically use spot instances, took advantage of reserved instances, and AWS is great. They were a great partner for us and really helped us do that cost optimization. They're not one of these companies that tries to just maximize how much money with every transaction. They're happy to help you with cost optimization,
yeah.
which was awesome.
Amazing. And how was the journey in terms of Kubernetes itself, right? For example, when you moved it into Kubernetes, did you use auto scaling and all those features that comes along with it?
Absolutely. We moved to a modern Kubernetes architecture, and that, once again, that was the advantage, I think, of waiting a little bit, having lots of examples of what to do. We had some great engineers that came up with a great kind of architecture, but they were taking advantage of what was available out there. Once again, a lot of different things have been tried in the Kubernetes community. I mean, the Kubernetes is designed, from scratch to be for, high volume, high traffic and everything. But there are a lot of different examples for us to use. And that was very helpful. And so we started right out with a fully auto scaling architecture, just that works kind of automatically. And so it was a big help.
Awesome. And any other parts other than like the Kubernetes optimization? How do you sort of manage your overall cost? One part is Kubernetes, but you also have, let's say, databases and all other instances, right? So,
Well, it's we used a Datadog for our observability, use a Postgres mostly for our databases. And I think that where we had vendors like Datadog as well as AWS, I mean, I think in working with our vendors to help us cost optimize was really big. We got a lot of help from our vendors. And then also we as I mentioned, we take advantage of a lot of open source technology as well. But that's not just a free ride. When you use open source, it's the investment of your time that
fine, yeah.
that dwarfs what it might cost to kind of buy a product in a lot of cases. And so what you've got to do is we made very standard technology choices, Java, Postgres, AWS, Datadog. And so we were common, good technology, but common technology where there were lots of examples of how to do this in the most cost effective way. And we tried to take advantage of that.
Got it, got it. And I think you have seen enough over last 30 years, and then you've also been part of real gaming companies versus fintech companies, kind of stuff. How do you compare the DevOps practices in these two worlds, right? One is a real gaming, other one is fintech. Very different, but like, what are some of the challenges that you have been through in these things?
Yeah, it was kind of interesting. So I've just spent the last 3 years at Tide, which is a fintech, and it's dealing with different markets and different regulations and different sets of laws. That's a lot of our time and effort was how to make sure we were compliant. Before Tide, earlier in my career, I was at BWin Party.
Mhm.
They're well known, especially in Europe, for sports gaming and online gaming. They sponsored Real Madrid for a while, and what was interesting about them is it was a similar challenge. They were offering real, they're offering gaming functionality in many different countries, and so it was dealing with the laws, dealing with the regulations. Um, it was very similar in some ways to working at a fintech, in that what you were concerned about is making sure you were compliant with the rules in all the different markets in which you need to operate. And so that's interesting to me because at the end of the day, it seems very different, gambling versus fintech. But from a standpoint of the technical challenge, it's oftentimes how do you play by the rules, and those were the challenges in both places.
And like in terms of real gaming kind of stuff, right? Is the challenge also like just during the play, suddenly you have a spike in the number of people using it versus not, like, is that and how do you scale those kind of stuff at that time?
I've never been anywhere where the work that you were doing technically was more directly connected to money. I mean,
Hmm.
any problem that you had, any outage you had, you could exactly count how much money it was costing you.
You
Because
lost.
at BWin, we were making money, by the minute and 24 hours a day. And so, having any sort of an outage, having any sort of any aspect of the system not working, made a big deal. And then, of course, anything new we added could add revenue very quickly. And so it was just like I've never had that kind of that much feedback. You talk about back to our earlier discussion of agile. It's all about getting customer feedback. Well, when you're in real gaming, that's the ultimate in getting direct customer feedback
That's not
all the
good.
time. And so it was a very exhilarating environment in which to work. Uh, Lots of ups and downs, but we were able to make things happen successfully there. And so was happy with that experience.
Awesome. I think we have come to the end of our stuff. Like any, obviously you have learned so much, right? What are some of the key takeaways that you want to our viewers to have it? I know you have enough, but if I want to pick the top three, what will that be?
Well, I think that as I mentioned before, my whole career has seen this sort of progression of people doing more and more to experiment and try things with technology. And that's only continuing today with the AI. Uh,
Yeah.
with the AI capabilities that are coming out there, it's making it so that just somebody being able to specify the problem in English, an AI system may be able to generate a system that can help you get your answers back directly. It's an amazing ability to generate new, as I would say, new experiments, new things to kind of try. I think the challenge becomes, how do you live in this new AI world? How do you deal with all of this software that's generated? And how do organizations kind of adapt, uh, integrating these systems into what you've already got in infrastructure becomes a big challenge as well. So that's what I'm doing now. I've got a company that I'm putting together that's all about not doing AI, which a lot of people are doing AI. It's how do you adapt your whole organization to this new AI world? And I think that's the kind of the latest challenge. And once again, it's just a progression from small talk to agile to DevOps to cloud. AI is just the next part of that progression that accelerates our ability to ask questions and get answers as quickly as possible, so that you can adapt and make smarter and smarter systems.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, Kelly, for all the wisdom that you have given us, like taking through from 1990s to where it is today and taking us through the AI world. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Enjoyed it.